Is fear innate or learned? Fear is something every single person here knows deeply. It's universal, it cuts across all culture, ages, and time periods. Whether you live in any city in the world, fear is your silent companion. But here's the question we're exploring daily. Is fear something we are born with or something we learn? Because if fear is innate, then it means it's unwired into our biology, impossible to escape. But if it's learned, then maybe, just maybe, we can unlearn it. Today, over the next hours, we're going to explore fear from biological to psychological, from childhood to adulthood, from culture to society, and finally to how we can transform fear into strength. And let me tell you, by the end of the session, I want you to fear into as enemies but as teacher. Are you ready for the journey? What is fear? Fear is an emotional response to a perceived threat. Not that means fear does not wait for it doesn't ask, is this danger real? No, fear reacts instantly. What are some psychologists describe fear as? They describe it in different dimensions: emotional, cognitive, psychological. Emotional, the feeling of dread, panic, or worry. Cognitive, the thoughts racing in your minds. What if I fail? What if I get hurt? What if I lose? Psychological, the pounding hearts, the sweating palms, and the shaky voice. And why does fear exist? Is it to protect us? Think of our ancestors. If you didn't fear the lion hiding in the tall grass, you become lunch. If you didn't fear falling from a cliff, you didn't survive long enough to pass on your genes. Fear is the body alarm system. It triggers the famous flight or fight or flight or freeze. But here's the catch: the same system that protected us thousands of years ago now gets triggered when we stand on stage to give a speech, or when we check our bank accounts, or when we think about texting someone we love. The system hasn't changed, only the environment has. So fear is ancient, but is it innate? Let's explore the first side of the debate, that fear is innate. There's fascinating research here. Scientists have studied infants, tiny babies who haven't yet learned much about the world. What do they find? Babies universally show fear when exposed to loud noises. They flinch, they cry, they cling. No one teaches them this. Similarly, babies show distress when they lose physical support, when they feel they are about to fall. This tells us that at least some fears are hardwired into us at birth. Evolutionary psychologists argue that humans are born with certain predisposition to fear. For example, heights. Standing on a cliff edge, your body tenses if you never fall before. Snakes and spiders. Study shows that humans detect these shapes faster than flowers or butterfly. Why? Because our ancestors who feared snakes survived longer. The dark. Nighttime meant predators. Even today, adults feel uneasy in complete darkness. So the question is fear learned or innate? You can comment below your view, please. And welcome to this live stream, everyone. You can define what is fear according to you. Fear is universal. No matter where you come from, no matter your age, gender, or culture, you fear something. And today, there are many types of phobias. There is claustrophobia, agoraphobia, genophobia. So every one of us experience different type of fear. Innate fear. Scientists discover that even if I startle at loud noises or sudden drops, nobody teaches a baby to be afraid of falling. It's built into us. Evolution programmed us this way to survive. Imagine our ancestors on the savannah. Those who didn't fear the rustling in the bushes often didn't live to tell the story. Fear is, in that sense, is our oldest guardian. On land, on land. But let me give you another example. If a child sees their parents screaming at the sight of a dog, chances are that the child will also fear dogs, even if the dogs never harm them. This is called social learning. We don't just inherit genes, we inherit emotion through observation. Now let's flip the coin. We've seen that some fears are hardwired. But what about fears that we pick up along the way? This is where psychology gets fascinating. Fear can be learned into two main ways: conditioning or social learning. Conditioning conditioning means associating one's experience with another. Let me give you an example. Imagine you touch a hot stove as a child. You'll feel the burn from that day forward. You become wary of stoves. No one needs to tell you twice. Your brain has already paired stoves, pain, and fear. This is known as classical conditioning. It's the same principle used in the little Albert experiment. The loud noises become links. Sorry. This happens when behaviors are reinforced or punished. For example, if a child screams when they see a spider and their parent rushes in and removes it, the child learns, if I'm afraid, I'll be protected over time. That fear deepens. Social learning. But perhaps the most powerful form of learned fear is social learning. We watch others and copy their responses. Example, if a mother shrieks every time she sees a cockroach, a child is likely to adopt the same fear, even if the cockroach never did them any harm. If a community repeatedly warns children that the forest is dangerous, those children grow up afraid of the forest, even if they have never get harmed in the forest. So that's where we come to phobias. Phobias are intense, irrational fears. Example, fear of flying, fear of elevator, fear of clowns. Most phobias don't come from direct danger. They are learned through a combination of experience, culture, and imagination. For example, fear of flying is extremely common, but statistically, flying is far safer than driving. Yet, why do some people panic in planes? Because of turbulence feels like danger, and because movies, news, and stories feed them into that anxiety. It's not innate, it's learned. Another example is public speaking. Think about the more people fear speaking in front of an audience than they fear death. Nobody is born with that fear. Babies don't care if they cry in front of hundreds of people. We learn it through embarrassment, rejection, and the harsh judgments of others. So we look closely. Much of what paralyzes us today isn't about snake or lions. It's about failure, rejection, humiliation. Those are learned fears. I want you to think of a fear you have today. Maybe it's fear of failing an exam, fear of asking for promotion, fear of saying I love you first. Now ask yourself, was I born with this fear? Or did life, people, or experience teach me this fear? The single question can change the way you see yourself. Let's widen the lens. Fear doesn't just live inside individuals; it lives inside cultures. Think about it. Why are why are certain fears more common in some society than others? Because culture teaches us what to be afraid of. For example, in some African communities, children are warned against going near rivers because of spirits of crocodiles. The fear protects them. In Western societies, children may grow up fearing strangers because of the Strange Danger campaign. In East Asia cultures, fear of bringing shame to the family can be stronger than fear of personal failure. Culture decides what it's normal to fear. So now we have seen two sides. Some fears are built in ancient survival alarms, others we learn shaped by family, culture, and experience. Now that we have seen that fear can be both innate or learned, let's get inside the body because fear isn't just an idea, it's biological storm. Here, here is what happens when you feel fear. The amygdala, the alarm bell, deep in your brain sits a small almond-shaped structure, the amygdala. The moment you sense danger, real or imagined, the amygdala fires. It doesn't ask for proof, it just say, danger, act now. The hypothalamus, the command center. The amygdala signals the hypothalamus, which then activates your nervous system. Think of it as pressing the emergency alarm in your body. The hormones, the body fuel, adrenaline, and your bloodstream, your heart pounds, your breathing quickens, your pupil dilates, blood rushes to your muscle, preparing you to flight, flee or freeze. This is why fear is so physical. It's not in your head, it's in your body. Close your eyes, imagine you are standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a deep valley. No railings, just you and the drop. What's happening in your body right now? Sweaty palms, stomach drops, racing heartbeats. That's your biology at work. Now open your eyes. Did the cliff exist? No. But your body reacted as if it did. That's how powerful fear is. It doesn't wait for proof. The perception of danger is enough to trigger the whole system. For example, what's even more fascinating is now how we fear hijacks the brain. When the amygdala activates, it can override the cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and decision making. That's why when you are afraid, you don't always think clearly, you act instinctively. This is why soldiers may freeze in battle, while some may run blindly during a fire instead of finding the exit. Fear narrows your focus, sometimes saving you, sometimes trapping you. Let's look how fear evolves as we grow. Children often fear the dark, monsters, separation from parents. These fears are partly biological, but also shaped by stories and environments that we are told as children. A child who hears ghosts tales at night develops a strong fear of darkness. As we enter teenage years, fear shifts. It's less about monsters under the bed and more about social monsters, rejection, embarrassment, not fitting in. Being expected by peers can be stronger than the fear of physical harm. That's why a teenager might risk dangerous behavior to look cool. The fear of social rejection outweighs the fear of real consequences. As an adult, fears evolves again. We start fearing failure in careers, financial insecurity, rejection in love, aging, and ultimately death. Think about it. How many of our daily decisions are shaped not by what we want, but by what we fear losing? We don't apply for a job because we fear rejection. We stay in toxic relationship because we fear being alone. We don't pursue dreams because we fear failure. Fear changes with age, but its grace remains strong. I want you to think about this. What's a fear you had as a child that feels silly now? Maybe fear of the dark or fear of monsters. Not what fears you have today that you didn't have back then. Maybe failure, rejection, or loss. Notice how fear grows up with you. It evolves just as you do. But unlike you, it doesn't always mature. Sometimes our fears remain irrational when we know better. Fear in society and culture. Let's zoom out. Fear doesn't just live in our personal lives, it lives in our society. Throughout history, leaders, government, religion, and media have used fear as a tool of control. Politics. Politicians use fear of enemy, fear of crime, fear of collapse to gain support. Many traditions, while offering comfort, also use fear of punishment, fear of hell, fear of divine judgment to guide behavior. Media, news outlets thrives on fear. Headlines rarely say everything is fine today. Instead, they highlight danger, violence, disasters, because fear captures attention. The economy, fear of missing out, fear of aging, fear of not being attractive, these are used to sell products every day. So ask yourself, How much of what I fear is truly mine, and how much was given to me by society? Think back to the pandemic. Fear spread faster than the virus. Supermarkets were empty. Economy froze, not because everyone was sick, but because everyone was afraid. Fear doesn't just move individuals, it moves nations. This is why we need awareness, because once you realize how fear is used against you, you gain back power. Fear loses its grip when you expose it. The positive side of fear. But let's not make fear the villain of the story, because fear also has a bright side. Fear protects, it stops us from walking into dangerous situations. Fear motivates, deadlines are scary, but they pushes us to finish. Fear inspires courage. Remember this, courage is not the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. Fear fuels creativity. Artists innovate, entrepreneurs, they all work with fear. Fear of failure drives them to prepare harder. Fear of being ordinary drives them to the extraordinary. So instead of saying, I must get rid of fear, try saying, I must learn to dance with fear. Because fear is energy, and energy, when directed, become power. Now, how do you actually manage fear in daily life? Name the fear. When you give fear a name, it loses mastery. Instead of saying, I'm just anxious, say, I'm afraid of falling the test. Naming it makes it concrete and unconquerable. Most fear are not facts, they are stories we tell ourselves. Ask, is this true or is this my imagination? Exposure. The best way to shrink fear is to face it slowly. Afraid of public speaking? Start by speaking to a small group. Afraid of rejection? Start by having one uncomfortable conversation. Mindfulness and breathing. Fear lives in the future. What if this happens? Mindfulness brings you back to now, where most fear have no power. Reframe fear as fuel. Instead of saying I'm nervous, try saying I'm excited. The body reacts almost the same way, but your mind changes the meaning. The truth is, we are, we are born with ancient alarms, fear of failing, fear of loud sounds, fear of predators, but life, family, culture, and society teaches us count, countless others: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of shame. The change isn't to erase fear, it's recognize it, understand it, and transform it. Because here's the secret: behind every fear lies the truth about what matters most to us. We fear failure because we value success. We fear rejection because we crave connection. We fear death because we love life. So next time fear visits you, don't just push it away. Ask it, what are you here to teach me? Fear is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of courage.